Yeah, and this is done in very specific ways. For instance, we have the straw man argument.
Mm.
And a straw man is something that can be easily defeated in terms of logic and information that we can bring out against it to make it look foolish.
Mm.
And that's how they've dealt with the 9/11 truth community, of which I am a member as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've done some writing about that.
Yeah.
And basically what happens is, they're just attacking from every possible side, so that it's extremely difficult to get people to listen to anything other than what they will naturally gravitate towards, which is an expression of their spiritual level. Like, for instance, I knew a guy who was an air traffic controller,
Mm-hmm.
who was working on 9/11 and had, for part of the day, had Air Force One under his on his screen.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy was it was impossible to get any type of information to him that would force him to think any differently than what he had already been pre-programmed to think. And this is how they fight these things. And if, for instance, talking about 9/11, if we talk about things like, they were using holograms and all that type of nonsense,
Sure.
then you can be easily made to look like a fool just because you may accept one of those scenarios and promote it in your writing.
Yeah, I mean, and it also feels like there is no, whatever the truth might be, there is always, I try to keep my mind open about these things and look at the stuff before, I discard it at least. But in many cases, it seems like, you aren't allowed to do that, because if you, read something about someone who said something about, just as you say, a hologram or whatever, that information is disregarded right on the basis of the fact that it sounds ridiculous. But again, many of this stuff, as I say it, is just to, we must allow ourselves to view all available evidence and then, draw our own conclusions based on that. Do you agree on that?
Yes, and that's what I try to do, is I try to look at all sides of an issue before I write about it and make my own decisions as a journalist and as a researcher first.
Yeah.
Because of the many years I've been doing this, it's been pretty obvious to me from what directions the nonsense is coming from. And, on one level, this is also a function of how the American governmental public school system works.
Yeah.
People who attend the public schools in our country are taught to accept everything that an authority figure says, no matter how ridiculous it is, which explains some of the people who still support our president.
Yeah.
They are told to completely discount anything other than what the actual experts or authorities say.
Yeah.
And so if I come along, for instance, and one of the things that I put up on my website was a $10,000 challenge to have anybody explain to me how 9/11 could have happened without the use of security codes. Because on that day, they would have had to have had access to these internal security codes, some of which are changed on a daily basis. And the only way that the accessing of the particular systems that occurred on that day, whether we're talking about the air traffic controllers, the stand down of NORAD, the so-called cell phones on the flights and the calls that were supposedly made.
Mm.
And that's complete nonsense, because if my cell phone works on an airplane, why do they have this $5 a minute satellite phone embedded into the seat in front of me, where it costs me, $30 to make a 5 or 6 minute call?
Yeah.
If I could just use my cell phone. So most people don't have the mental ability to make rational decisions based on the very type of information sorting as we're talking about here.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, we're coming to the end of our time here, but again, let me thank you very much, Kent, for coming on. I think this has been an excellent discussion, and I would love to have you back at some point. There are a lot more to talk about here, and it feels like we just kind of brushed on a lot of these topics. But again, before we finish off here, tell people about your website and about some of your writing.
Yes, my website is the Controversy Papers, and it's available at controversypapers.net. And some of the writing that I have done is writing about the American mass media, television and movies, and rock music, and the occult symbolism that is found within them. I also write about financial matters, political matters related to our immediate situation. I have a series called How to, I have a series on false flag attacks.
Yeah.
And just many other things that talk about how people can be manipulated. For instance, I have a report about toys that indoctrinate children. I have another series of articles, the microchip agenda.
Yeah.
The globalists seek to sanitize the internet. I tell the truth about the home mortgage and how the author of the Harry Potter novels apparently is a real practicing witch.
Interesting. So, I mean, as you say, you have a lot of material on the website, so everyone check it out, controversypapers.net. So, excellent stuff. And again, keep up the good work, Kent, and thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, and I hope we can do this again soon.
Me too, thank you.
Okay, good night.
You have been listening to Red Ice Creations Radio. Thank you for being a subscriber. Your support keeps redicecreations.com alive. Until next time, take care.